The final one is, when you assume office, will you look at the uncompleted National Cathedral? Thank you.
We intend to make agriculture sexy and cool. We are going to move away from the whole and cutlass agriculture. We teach them to use the equipment themselves. As I stand here, I can drive a tractor, I can plow my own field. And we will teach the young people to be able to do it. It was a personal promise. And if I have 400 million, God will be angry with me if I use it to build that cathedral. So, I'm not going to take taxpayers 400 million or borrow 400 million from any source to build that cathedral.
To give us the opening prayer, shall we welcome him with an applause?
How beautiful, how good, and how pleasant it is for
Total number of children in basic schools. Over 1.2 million children of school-going age between 4 and 17 years are not in school. Out of this number, almost 1 million of them, to be precise, 942,427 children are reported to have never attended school. And this is in the Population and Housing Census of 2021. So these are facts I'm reading out to you. For 4 straight years, textbooks have not been supplied to schools. And one can only wonder how teachers and students alike are coping. And this is after a change in curriculum. Textbooks have not been made available. For 6 consecutive terms, capitation grants have not been released to schools. It is important to stress that it is through these capitation grants that basic inputs at the primary level, like writing boards, etc., are provided. Attendance registers, among others. It is through these capitation grants that they are procured for the running of the schools. We are all familiar with the numerous demonstrations and strike actions, some of which are currently ongoing, embarked on by school feeding caterers over non-payment of monies due to them. In the last few months, suppliers of food for the Buffer Stock Company Limited, which in turn supplies senior high schools with food, have staged a sit-in strike at the premises of the company to demand millions of Ghana cedis that is owed to them. And recently there was a teacher who was, the headmaster who was explaining that they serve what is available. And so sometimes they have only rice. So rice water in the morning, rice in the afternoon, and mutu in the evening. And then when they have only maize, cocoa in the morning, banku in the afternoon, tozafi in the evening. In addition to these, the erratic academic calendar at the senior high school level, inadequate infrastructure leading to overcrowding, insanitary conditions, intimidation and victimization of school heads and teachers and other stakeholders, and misguided policy making are some of the problems that exist in our educational sector today. At the tertiary level, we are also too aware of the severe accommodation shortages on campus and the astronomical rents and fees that students have to pay to secure accommodation as close to their institutions as possible. This is due to underinvestment in facilities on the various campuses, which GET Fund was designed to address. Non-payment of funds accruing to GET Fund and the collateralization of the fund by this government have hampered the investment that should otherwise have been made to address the problems I have just outlined. We believe that the ad hoc haphazard, political motivated policy making and implementation, and the short-sighted tinkering that have created these problems must give way to substantive thinking and offering that curate appropriate and visionary solutions to our educational challenges. My vision for the youth in respect of our education is to focus on their holistic development by balancing their intellect, which is their head, their character, which is their heart, and their skills, which is their hands. So it's heart, head, hearts, and hands. The 3 H's. To this end, I will facilitate an educational system that does not only expand access to education, it's not only about access. So we'll facilitate a system that does not only expand access to education, but more importantly, that it indexes access expansion to quality and equity. And therefore, access, quality, and equity are the 3 key pillars that will drive our vision in education. In pursuit of this vision, my administration will promote and prioritize investments in education, particularly at the basic education level. I commit myself to strengthening basic level education because if the preschool and primary level of education that provide foundational learning opportunities are weak, performance at the secondary level will continue to be a challenge. The next NDC government will invest heavily in the construction and renovation of schools with particular focus on underserved and rural areas. We'll continue our program to remove schools under trees and provide furniture for children at the basic level. With regards to the e-blocks, in our effort to expand access to education, we'll revisit the initiative of community-day senior high schools, which were popularly called the e-blocks. These schools have been abandoned without any justifiable reason by the current administration. We're going to build more e-blocks, community-day schools, in high urban population areas. And I'm talking about this. What I've said is, in some of the high urban population areas where land is difficult to find, we're going to take existing secondary schools because we have extra land, and we'll put a second secondary school on the same land so that we can expand the number of children who have access to secondary education. With the e-blocks or the community-day schools that we have built in rural areas that have a wide catchment area, we will provide dormitory blocks so that children who come from outside the community where the school is will have a place to stay while they are. With the much publicized problem militating against the successful implementation of the free SHS program, we intend to tackle them head on. And as I've said earlier, within 100 days of my being sworn into office, the next NDC government will hold a stakeholder consultative engagement to discuss the challenges facing our educational sector with special focus on improving implementation of the free SHS policy. So this stakeholder engagement will discuss basic, secondary, and tertiary, but with emphasis on improving the implementation of free secondary education. Through this stakeholder dialogue, we will collectively devise strategies and solutions to further pause the decline and improve the free SHS program. We are committed to abolishing the double track system as soon as possible. Mr. Chairman, between 2012 and 2016, My administration paid particular attention to technical and vocational education. When we regain power in 2024, we will revisit the initiatives that we commenced and will review the current trends and make TVET education more engaging and industry-driven. Enhancing partnerships between TVET institutions and industries across various sectors will be a priority involvement of our industries in shaping TVET training curricula that align with their needs, with the needs of the job market. And this is what we're going to emphasize so that students should be more equipped with entrepreneurial and practical skills that fit the job market. With regards to STEM education, we're going to streamline STEM education, mainstream STEM education into our educational system. We don't believe in standalone STEM secondary schools like this administration is building. We believe that to get a holistic training, all-round training, even if you are studying the humanities, you need some science education and some mathematics and technical education. And so rather than build standalone STEM secondary schools, we're going to rehabilitate all the old science resource centers and create them into STEM centers. So that all the secondary schools can have access to STEM learning instead of a few privileged secondary schools. In all the E-blocks that we built, the community-based schools, we put 4 laboratories. A laboratory for physics, for chemistry, biology, and general science. Those laboratories are going to be the STEM centers for the community-based schools. We're going to develop those laboratories in all the community-based schools as their STEM centers. With all the other secondary schools, the science resource centers will be available for them to use as their STEM centers. And NDC leadership will also enhance the quality and availability of online mode of distance learning as a way of diversifying the delivery of tertiary education in the country. These flexible learning options will grant more students access to tertiary education while fulfilling their other employment commitments.
I will plead with you, as the MC said, this is not a political rally. In fact, it's an extension of our classroom work. There should be no heckling, no bullying, no indiscipline. We must give him all the necessary respect as our head of state, the former head of state, an elder statesman, and a wise man who wants to share his experiences with us. So, Mr. President, your audience, your speaker.
That tertiary educational opportunities are accessible across the country and bridge the gap between the newly created regions and the whole established regions. We're also committed to providing scholarships and financial assistance through the scholarship scheme, and this will not be on protocol basis to children of favored political exposed persons. We also intend to enhance the student loan scheme to provide proper, sufficient loans to students to be able to finance their education, and they are only enjoying to pay back when they have been formally employed. This is going to be administered in collaboration with the banking and financial sectors. So students will be required to open accounts in a particular bank, and the loan scheme will be channeled through their bank accounts. In our unwavering commitment to education, equity stands as a fundamental pillar of our vision. We recognize that achieving equitable access to quality education is essential for the holistic development and empowerment of every Ghanaian child. Equity and inclusiveness are therefore at the heart of our vision for education. Our focus will be on bridging the gap between the less endowed schools located in the rural and urban poor areas and the rich urban endowed schools. Our goal is to ensure that no child is left behind, irrespective of their socioeconomic background, their geographical location, their gender, or any other characteristic. And we started to achieve this when Nana Ajman was Minister of Education. We saw a change in the performance of secondary schools. Some rural schools that before had been performing very poorly suddenly jumped up to the top, and there were many of them who came into the top 20 in terms of performance, at the West African Examination Council exams. We're going to continue and make that a fact of life again. Key in NDC's equity agenda is the promotion of gender equity at all levels of education development. It's going to be separate from the sports ministry. The sports ministry is not going to have anything to do with it because we want 100% concentration on issues of young people. A key plank of our job creation strategy is the novel 24-hour economy program. This program has caught the fancy of many young people across the country. This innovative program is designed to create a thriving economic environment that operates round the clock, fostering a multitude of employment opportunities for young people. Under the 24-hour economic program, we'll focus on revitalizing existing and dormant industries. And so we're going to invest in bringing industries that have collapsed back on stream, and existing industries that are not performing well, we're going to invest in them so that they can create more employment for young people. We will invest in fostering the growth of emerging sectors that have the potential to operate beyond traditional working hours. By extending the business hours and encouraging businesses to operate during evenings and on weekends, we aim to maximize productivity and create a diverse range of jobs that cater for the needs and aspirations of our youth. This initiative, I'm convinced, will not be smoothly implemented without the involvement of the private sector. My administration will therefore work closely with the private sector, which presently employs 90% of the workforce, according to the Ghana GSS 2021, including business entrepreneurs and investors. By fostering partnerships and providing incentives, we will grant the private sector some tax reliefs to encourage them to embrace and operationalize the 24-hour economy policy. We will incentivize them to expand their operations and create new job opportunities. This collaborative effort with the private sector will not only stimulate economic growth but also enable the youth to gain valuable employment experience and contribute to the nation's development. One other area I find critical in our job creation policy is the agricultural and agribusiness sectors. As a farmer myself, I strongly identify agriculture as a major backbone to the Ghanaian economy. Agriculture in all its forms, from crops, crop farming, fishing, animal rearing, etc., continues to be an avenue for employment amongst the young people of our country. As part of our job creation strategy in the agricultural sector, we will strategically diversify the agricultural landscape and tap into new market opportunities. We intend to make agriculture sexy and cool. We are going to move away from the whole and cutlass agriculture. We will create farmer service centers so young agricultural entrepreneurs who want to go into farming will receive all the services they need from the farmer service center. While they are receiving those services, we will teach them to use the equipment themselves. As I stand here, I can drive a tractor, I can plow my own field. And we will teach the young people to be able to do it. And we'll teach you all the agri-extension knowledge that you need so that you can create a good income for yourself. Aside from that, we'll also introduce modern agricultural techniques. I'm sure those of you who've been to other countries, you notice that now a lot of produce is being done in greenhouse conditions. And when we're in office, if you go to Bawumia, we set up greenhouses there. The intention was to allocate it to young people who were interested in agriculture to produce vegetables, tomatoes, onions, carrots, and everything for the markets in Accra. Unfortunately, after we left, my understanding is the place has been abandoned. And so we're going to make agriculture sexy and cool so that young people will be interested in going to agriculture. We will prioritize equipping young people with the necessary technical skills, entrepreneurship and training, and the requisite technological support to enable them to offer productivity enhancing services to farmers. By empowering young people to engage in agricultural ventures as profitable businesses, we envision a thriving agricultural sector that contributes to both economic growth and sustainable employment generation. We will also expand investment in the fintech and digital spaces, both in payment platform options, but also in other sectors like agriculture. I met the fintech community recently, and they offer services from like church collections. There's a fintech that has created a platform for churches, and so they're able to make their payments online, pay their tithes online using the payment platform. But there's also a fintech that has registered farmers growing soya bean, and it gives them the seeds and the inputs, and then it gives them microcredits using their payment platform. And at the end of the farming season, when they are harvested, they buy the crops and pay them using their payment platform. It's a more efficient way of getting inputs to the farmers than the planting for food and jobs, where you just send the fertilizer to the regions and you go and find hairdressers and dressmakers selling fertilizer to farmers because they have political connections. They get the fertilizer and the farmers don't get the fertilizer. And so we give tax incentives also to agriculture, especially agribusiness ventures. And as I said, in every region, we're going to establish an agro-industrial zone. Government will acquire the land, will do the road, will bring the water, the electricity, everything there. So anybody who wants to set up a cassava processing plant, a cashew processing plant, any agro-industrial business, you will have land ready to set up. And this is going to be in all the 16 regions. And so our industrialization policy is a bit different from the one district, one factory. We don't believe that business and industry align with political delineations. they align with the value chain. And so you must put cashew processing plants in Bono and Bono East region, because that's the area where they produce the most cashew in this country. And so you tailor the industry to the comparative advantage they have in terms of their production. And so we do these agro-industrial zones and put those processing plants there so that young people can set up their businesses and get employment to do. Yeah. We'll create a database and a dashboard that allows young people to enter their qualifications so that at any one time employers can go into that database, and if they want a particular skill, a certain qualification in accounting, they'll be able to see all those who have those qualifications, the schools they attended, the year they completed, their experience, everything. And if they take any person from that youth database and employ him, we'll give them a tax incentive for employing that young person. And there'll be a dashboard that shows every person employed. The dashboard will continue to show how many people have been employed out of that database. Mr. Chairman, mining is another area where we can create a myriad of jobs. It's a critical sector in our economy and provides significant employment opportunities for our young people. However, it is essential to acknowledge the potential environmental risks associated with this industry, particularly in terms of destruction of our natural habitats and water bodies, as exemplified by Galamsey. We are committed to striking a balance between economic development and environmental conservation. Therefore, we will actively support small-scale mining operations that adhere to stringent environmental standards. In addition to that, we're going to employ a lot of the young people currently engaged in Galamsey. We're going to employ them in reclamation of the land and planting of trees to reclaim the lands that have been destroyed. And so young people are going to be recruited, they'll be paid a monthly income to grow trees, not plant trees. Tree planting, we just going to put a tree there, nobody ever goes back to see whether it has thrived or not. These will be engaged in growing the trees. They'll plant the trees, and every day they'll go and check on the trees. During the Hamatan, they'll have aboboyas with polytanks in the back. They'll go and water the trees to make sure that the trees are growing. By encouraging responsible mining practice, we aim to mitigate the negative impact on our environment while ensuring the continued livelihood of those engaged in the sector. Additionally, we will prioritize the streamlining and enhancement of community mining schemes to encourage local communities to actively participate in legal mining activities while ensuring that the benefits are distributed equitably. These and many other practical and transformative sector-specific programs are being codified in our manifesto. And when the manifesto comes, you find broader policies in that manifesto with regards to job creation and the educational sector. There are other aspects of the education sector which I have announced earlier during our building Ghana tour of this government, and they have met expectation by the political class. We have given rise to apathy and skepticism amongst young people, including students, about the future of this country. Failure to take interest in national affairs will have the effect of entrenching the problems and worsening the already dire situation in which we find ourselves in our politics and in what goes on in our country. However, I urge the young people of the country to keep hope alive and not to despair, even as there appears to be no light at the end of the tunnel. NDC will provide that light and that hope. I can assure you, the young people of this country, that a new dawn is on the horizon, and that the next NDC government will work tirelessly to restore the economy to a sound footing, so that you can find jobs and be able to live decent lives. And as I emphasize, the next NDC administration will averagely be the youngest cabinet ever in the history. And therefore, Ghanaian youth to join forces with our party, the NDC, as we wage this campaign to wrest power from a clearly underperforming government that has effectively destroyed our economy and made life unbearable for us all. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for your time. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Shall we appreciate you once again? Building the Ghana we want together. And this is the time where we also get to play a part by making a comment. If you have a suggestion, I'm sure His Excellency will be happy to hear them. He will have the privilege of asking the first question. So whilst our students get ready, Your Excellency, one of our deans has a question. Your Excellency, are you ready for us? So Dr. Akwasam, one of our deans, would want to ask a question. Whilst we have our students get ready. So Doc, if you can please.
Thank you very much. Excellency, I've followed with keen interest your presentation and many others that you've done in other areas throughout your talk. And one issue that actually seems to be a burden on my shoulders, and probably that of the country, is the problem of uncompleted government projects. During President Kwahu's time, he started many which he couldn't complete. During your time and the late professor's time, you also led some when you were leaving office. The current administration is also having some to deal with. Basically, what are your plans with regards to uncompleted projects in Ghana? Because it seems to me that the areas you are tackling, educational sector and so on and so forth, many projects have been done which are still lying idle. But we took loans as a nation to start them. But the ones you are promising, can we pause as a nation for even just a year to go back to all the viable projects and see what we can do with them before we can start new ones in the same areas? Your Commander Sugar Factory is lying idle. Loan from Indian government is lying idle. What do we do? The final one is, when you assume office, will you look at the uncompleted National Cathedral? Thank you.
Business school to ask his question, and then I'll take a third question from the dean of our business school, and then you can answer that, and then afterwards you can start with our students. And please, let's keep our questions brief. Thank you.
You have answered most of the questions. Education. We train people, we give them allowances, and we give them scholarships. Some of these scholarships very huge sums, especially those who travel abroad. In the training, sometimes we give hypocritical undertaking or bonds which nobody follows. We pay allowances to them, hard-earned state funds, nothing is done, they are flying out of the country. Nothing is done to bond them. Some take government scholarships, hard-earned public sector funds. They finish their programs, they are still outside, nothing is done to recoup our money. These leakages in the public sector, how can this be addressed? And let me add the second one. Misguided public policies of implementation of certain misguided public policies. Some of them, I think they are unwarranted. You just mentioned so many deficiencies or things that need to be covered in the educational sector. But we'll see expenditures, for example, distributing tablets to students now, which actually is misguided because there are other things that need to be done. Another misguided expenditure is what I see as a national cathedral. You see, those who link this national cathedral to the biblical David, when you read the Bible, David, after he became successful and victorious and defeated all his enemies.
Thank you very much, God. I think your question is a bit lengthy, so respectfully, if we can wrap up here.
Let me just end it.
Yes.
When David defeated them, and yes, he was satisfied, that is when he said, let me pay for the Lord. Yeah. And we defeated our enemies of inflation, exchange rate in address. I end my question.
Thank you. So we'll have the third question from Doc.
Your Excellency, I thank you for your brilliant speech and also your vision for this country. I have two questions. One is about, I didn't hear anything about health. We have a situation where we hear most of our nurses and doctors are running out of this country. What is your plan so that our nurses and doctors, that we train, can remain in this country? Number two, I want to hear something about the dirty environment in which we find ourselves. All the sachet water, the plastics that we see around, it makes our city really a shame. We need to visit other countries and cities. Thank you.
Thank you. I think His Excellency can now answer these questions because
our priority would have been different. There are other things begging for funding in our educational system than those laptops. But it's a bribe for them to vote for this government. But I mean, the children do not exist in isolation. They live in households and families. Some of them's parents are those who were working in the banking sector, then cruelly closed 9 indigenous banks and threw them all out onto the streets. Bankers have become Uber drivers. Those are the same people who sold them in pre-tertiary education. So you think if you give your child a tablet, the child will go for you after what you have done to their parents. Most of those children go home and their parents struggle to put a meal on the table for them because of your poor mismanagement of this economy. And you think that just giving the child a tablet is enough to buy their conscience to vote for you? I don't think so. The children should take the tablets, but they should remember that we cannot stand another 4 years of this poor driver Banza and his driver's mate. And then, this talk about health professionals. NDC believes in opening the capacity for training of health and we believe in providing opportunities for them to work. And that's why we're building the community-based secondary school, so that we can employ more teachers. And that's why we're building hospitals, so that we can employ more nurses and more health professionals. Let us produce enough to feed ourselves, but also to export. If you listen to me, I said there's nothing wrong with migration of health workers. Indeed, when we come into office, we will sign contracts with countries. Philippines have done it. Philippines have signed contracts with countries in the Middle East and other places in Europe, and they export their nurses and caregivers to those countries on fixed-term contracts. So you get a 5-year contract to go and work in a country. A small percentage of your income is remitted back to the country, but you also gain experience, and after 5 years when you come back, you're more experienced than you would have been probably if you were working at home. And while you are there, you'll be remitting money back home to your parents. And that is a very huge source of foreign currency. As I speak to you today, Philippines gets $30 billion from its professionals working abroad. These are doctors, these are nurses, these are healthcare professionals, these are engineers, seamen. Philippines has the most seamen on all the ships in this world. And all of them are earning money and sending it back. We have the Maritime University here. Why don't we open it up and train more Ghanaian youth as seamen and put them on ships to work? And so, as part of our employment ministry's obligation to deal with labor affairs and also to deal with employment matters, one, to reduce expenditure, and two, I don't see any use. Accra, our country is dirtier than when there was no Ministry of Sanitation. Indeed, this country was cleaner when sanitation was under local government than as a standalone ministry. And so we'll close down that ministry and we'll take the sanitation schedule back to local government. Indeed, because we want to reduce government expenditure, it's not only the sanitation ministry, in transport, aviation and railways, we're going to close them down and send them back to the transport ministry. We're going to combine communications and information again. And so we want to reduce the number of ministries. And so with cleanliness, we think that it is a duty of the district assemblies. Every assembly has an obligation to make sure that its district is clean. And so that is an area where we can create a lot of employment. When I was president, I gave them 1 million cedis to the artists and the entertainment industry because they wanted to set up an Asian artist fund to be able to take care of their aged, musicians and others. But then we asked them to provide us with a blueprint so that we could assist them in terms of the arts, in terms of filmmaking and all that. One of the major challenges they have is exhibition theaters. When they want to premiere the films, the places that are suitable for exhibiting their films take 50% of the proceeds. So they share the proceeds. And so if you have people coming to watch the premiere of a film, the owner of the exhibition hall takes 50% of all the gate proceeds, and you have only 50% left. Meanwhile, we know that because of the new media, they are not able to, they don't sell CDs and things again. And so they make their money from the exhibition. So they exhibit in Takrade, they do in Tamale, they do in Kumasi, they do in Accra, and they're supposed to recoup their money from the exhibition. So I promise them that government will help them to set up exhibition theaters that they own as a group. And so they will charge just for the use of the theater without sharing profits. So the money will go to the filmmaker, but they will just pay for the cost of renting the theater. If it's 5,000 cedis, you pay 5,000 cedis. As many people as come and watch a pay fee, now the money goes to the filmmaker so that he's able to recoup his investment that he used in making a film. It will be the same for musicians. If there's a government premises that they want to do a performance, we will give them, especially if they are local musicians, we'll give them a preferential rate so that they pay lower, and all the money that they get from those who come and listen to them goes to them so that they're able to recoup their investment. We'll also protect their royalties and their rights so that people are not taking advantage of their music without them earning something. In other parts of the world, those in the entertainment ministry are the richest people in those countries. And yet, in this part, they are the poorest. I find myself having to take care of so many of them who do not have anything. And so I made a special project every quarter to send them some food and some money. I won't disclose who they are, but there are many of them who I'm looking after like that. And I think that we need to create a situation where they're able to make enough money in their lifetime to be able to look after themselves in the future. Some of the young ones are taking advantage of the new digital media and all that. Their music and their films are on offer on Netflix and other places, and they get remittances from them. We can put their films on YouTube so that they earn money from YouTube and other media for exhibiting their talents. And so we have a very broad policy for the entertainment industry. And when the manifesto is published and it comes out, I'm sure that we have consulted with them and they've given us many of their challenges. And so we're going to incorporate all that in the manifesto. That's why we are not just doing a manifesto that has a few experts and intellectuals sitting in a room and writing it. We're going around the country and talking to the people in the industry and getting their inputs into the manifesto. So I'm sure that everybody will have something in the manifesto which will make it a win-win for everybody, and they will truly be worthy of the name as a People's Manifesto. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. You may kindly now take your seat. Shall we please stand as His Excellency returns to his speech? And we also invite our President, Professor Obeng Mweku, who has been chairing this program, to give us his closing remarks. Shall we welcome Professor Obeng Mweku back upstage? Come up to the stage, and you'll be joined by our council chair, our president, registrar, Professor Kakari, and acting dean School of Communication Studies. If you can please come up. Yes, please.
Let's go. Let's go. Yes. Let's go.